I do want women to know that there is an alternative to suppressing their bodies with hormones, that they can see their body as a good and they can live in that body holistically.
Totally. Oh my gosh. It's amazing.
Join co-hosts Jamie Rocci and Teresa Kenny as they educate women about the beauty of the feminine design and empower women to take charge of their health.
They're going to be so amazing. You're going to be so empowered by understanding your feminine genius and your hormone genius. I don't think I could live my whole life knowing this and not sharing it with anyone. Hello, everyone. And I am here with the Hormone Genius, of course, with my co-host, Teresa Kenny. And today we are going to be talking about creatine, collagen, and colostrum. And we're going to do a Q&A, which again, I love these Q&As because I just get to ask all my questions and learn so much. So these three, I love that it's a triple C, because I think that's going to stay in the mind of our listeners. But I know I've seen lots of Instagram ads on all these, and it seems like probably it's based on search history and who I follow, but depending on like the season of life, like next, or even like the season of the year, you know? So last year, I think I was learning and hearing more about creatine. And then like early this year, collagen, and now a lot more about colostrum. It just seems like there are these seasons where these things are being more overtly marketed. You know what I mean? So again, it could be based on my search history or just what I'm looking at just in general. But I am looking forward to talking about this, Teresa, because I think you've grown very passionate. You've talked about these things a lot, and I'm looking forward to learning from you today.
Yeah, I'm excited to give this information and to help people just make better decisions about whether it's worth it to spend the money on these particular three supplements: creatine, collagen, and colostrum. So yeah, we'll just start out, Jamie, with creatine, because like you said, it is true. And I think this is why people are skeptical a little bit. They're like, why is it just that every influencer out there is promoting this? And it just feels kind of, I don't know, kind of like, ugh, you just are like, this doesn't seem right. It just seems like somebody's just trying to take my money. So creatine is this amino acid. It comes from protein sources, particularly meat. So we get creatine in our diet all the time. In fact, most of us, if we have a healthy protein-rich diet, probably get 2 to 3 grams of creatine daily anyway. So the question is, does it make sense to like supplement beyond that? And the reason why creatine has been suggested that it is yes, the answer is yes to that, is because it is so powerful at creating energy. It literally is considered kind of like a phosphate donor to the ATP Krebs cycle. And so when more creatine is put into the body, basically it is supporting your energy production through that ATP generation process. And it actually also hydrates the cells, literally like gives cells water in order to allow cells to properly perform. And so when we look at creatine from a performance enhancement supplement, it has proven over and over again in clinical studies to improve performance and muscle building, not just directly causing muscle growth, but indirectly almost supporting the muscle fibers and the energy production that the body needs to in order to create muscle protein synthesis. So creatine is kind of an easy one. And in some ways, we probably won't spend as much time on it because it's like the one that kind of is the no-brainer. And I'm sure a lot of you out there have heard about perimenopause and creatine. I feel like right now, because perimenopause is such a hot topic, creatine is being talked about a lot. And that also is something that people are questioning. Should I be taking this? I probably get asked at least once a day, should I be taking creatine?
Wow.
Yeah. Are
there things?
Yeah.
That's how often people are asking. Are there reasons someone shouldn't? Or not really?
There is almost no reason why you shouldn't. Obviously we probably are more careful with it. I mean, even they're talking about in pregnancy, it possibly being helpful for women in pregnancy. So it's an incredibly safe supplement. And the biggest myth about creatine that's been out there is somehow it is damaging to the kidneys. And everybody who talks about creatine gets super frustrated because this myth has been around for a while. And the reason why people have thought it was damaging to kidneys is because the byproduct of taking creatine causes creatinine to be produced in the bloodstream. And creatinine is seen in blood work and is a marker of kidney function. But if you're on creatine and your creatinine goes up because of being on a supplement, it has nothing to do with the function of the kidney, actually. And so they've pretty much like put this one to bed, as you could say. Creatine is completely safe to the kidneys. But I would caution people that if you're on creatine and you go do a metabolic panel, which has a creatinine level in it, yet your level of creatinine might be higher than the reference range. And so if you don't want that to happen and your doctor to be all concerned about your kidney function, just withhold your creatine supplement for at least probably 5 days to a week before you go get your blood work, and you'll be fine.
Right. So for the creatine, it's in a powder form, I assume. Are there capsules as well? Like when you do your creatine, do you put it in a smoothie? Do you put it in your coffee? Do you add it to your oatmeal? Do you just take it in water? Like how do you take it?
Well, I personally, and I'm going to be totally honest here, I'm a total wuss. And as much as I know the best way to take it, one is in the form of creatine monohydrate. So number one, the greatest form of creatine in terms of the supplement is the monohydrate form. And so that's what I recommend for all my patients. Two, it does make sense just to use the powders. The powders are the easiest way to get the typical dose, which is about 5 grams a day. And most people, honestly, the best way to do it is to put it in just a small amount of water, stir it up, and drink it down. It has no taste. It's very slightly gritty to not gritty. And that's the best way. Do people put it in their smoothies? Yes. Do they put it in their coffee? Probably. I don't, find a lot of people doing that, but sometimes they'll add it in with their collagen and they throw the creatine in there too. I am taking gummies, and I actually do get close to 5 grams with the gummies, but I don't really recommend that. I don't think it's a great way to do it. I'm just a baby about it. And I like my gummies because I actually kind of like they're my little treat at the end of the day. And so, like I said, my husband makes fun of me because he's like, just literally put the powder in the water, Teresa, and drink it down. But that's my story. But yeah, I mean, what does creatine do? I mean, like, it, again, improves energy, but it also, because it hydrates the cell, can actually act like an anti-inflammatory. It actually helps by kind of like improving your skin health in that way, just because, again, it's kind of boosting the kind of hydration of the cells. And it's not like, there's been this confusion about it that somehow, like, if your boys take creatine, they're like taking a testosterone enhancer or something like that. I think that's been a myth. Like, moms are like, oh my gosh, should my son be like downing this creatine stuff? Like, are they going to get like drug tested and it's going to show up? But it is not a steroid. It is not anything like testosterone. It is literally an amino acid, and it's very, very healthy. And right now, the biggest kind of like area people really are focused on is the newest research about cognitive health. And because it crosses the blood-brain barrier and it allows hydration of the cells in the brain, studies are showing, and there was a recent study with older women that it showed that creatine actually it was a huge meta-analysis in 2025 from the Frontiers of Nutrition. And they did an analysis of over 400 studies. 16 studies, almost 500 participants. And the evidence showed that creatine does improve cognitive function in older adults, particularly in the area of memory and attention and processing speed. So, this is the cognitive health. These are newer studies, but I think everybody's just really excited. And I think because there is no downside to taking creatine, it's so well studied that it's kind of like, well, why not get the cognitive enhancing benefits since you're already getting the benefits? If you're exercising and trying to build muscle in your older years, why not take it and hope that it's improving your cognitive health as well? And I think it does. I've been taking creatine for over a year more consistently, and I do feel like it has improved my cognitive health as well.
Oh, that's so good. I remember I'm sure you remember this. Like a couple summers ago, I hit my head really hard on a playground bar, trying to get to my daughter, and I just whacked my head at the very top. Definitely had to have been a concussion. Because I still feel like some of the after effects when I feel really inflamed, like now. Like my
Mm.
head really hurts, kind of where that bar was, my neck. Anyway, I remember you saying you need to take creatine. Like do that, as kind of a way to help recover and to help heal the brain. And I just remember that vividly. And so I did buy it and I have it. And I took it a lot in that time, but I should do that now too, actually.
Yes, it's a daily supplement. I mean, everybody
Yeah.
kind of at this point is like, it's every day, 5 grams a day. And I'm glad you brought that up because, yeah, there was a study that showed that people who have traumatic brain injury will recover faster after being on creatine supplementation. So easy peasy. Like if your kid
Easy.
gets, right, if your kid's an athlete and they got a traumatic brain injury from an athletic thing, like put them on creatine. That just really could help them improve their cognitive function faster and heal their brain in a sense. And there's also some emerging evidence that it might help bone health as well, which makes sense because if it helps recovery of muscle and you can improve your muscle protein synthesis and get more muscle out of using creatine, you should improve bone health too. It makes sense. But there might even be drivers of it on an actual bone level as well. And all of that, again, just makes creatine a number one supplement for everybody to consider. And because it's cheap, this is a no-brainer also. This is not the one that's going to be like the $50 to $80 like a month thing. This is like pennies a day basically.
Oh,
And
wow.
I was listening to Lane Norton, a famous nutrition scientist, talk about it. He's like so often people are on asking about all these other supplements and he's like, "Are you on creatine?" And they're like, "No." He's like, "Dude, you're stepping over dollars for pennies, or
Yeah.
you're picking up pennies to step. Is that what it is?"
You're stepping over penny. I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
You know what I mean, people.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a cheap supplement. And again, so I think that probably sums it up.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Well, after our podcast today, I'm gonna go whip me up some creatine in a little thing of water and swig it down. Okay. Collagen. So collagen, especially women our age. Well,
Yeah.
you're a little older than I am, but when I hear collagen, I think hair, skin, anti-aging. That's what I think of when I think of collagen. But tell us about why collagen is important. Is it proven to be helpful? What forms can we get collagen? We think about like bone broth and all these other fancy things. Well, I don't know if bone broth would be considered fancy, but it's a great way to get collagen and very inexpensive. But share with us what you know about collagen. Why is it important?
So collagen is like one of the most abundant amino acids in the body. Like it makes up like so much of our body tissue. I think the stat is like it makes up practically like 80% of all of our bone, cartilage, tendons, ligaments. It's like such a huge part of how we're made. And that alone, I think, pushes collagen, up to the top of like, should we be adding collagen because of our body having so much abundance of collagen in our tissues? And collagen actually from the time, and this is so depressing, but like, we reach our peak at like 24 to 25, like in so many ways on everything. Like our brain finally peaked, our bones finally peaked. We feel the most confident. We're the best looking that we usually are in our entire lives. And that's it. I mean, that's where collagen is at its peak as well. And then after that, collagen starts to decrease, which makes sense. Like, I guess, like from a standpoint of like aging, like I think we notice once we start getting into our 30s and 40s, we're losing elasticity. We're losing some of our kind of like, I'm so fit, like I could run forever, or I'm not worried about injury, like then you get
Right,
to a certain
right.
age, you're like, my ankle, it's all those things. And it's partly because of the loss of collagen in the body. So the question has always been, and it's been controversial, if you take collagen, is it going to actually kind of improve cartilage, tendons, and bones? And because that's what most people have wanted to study it for, is for more this ability for it to heal or to regenerate, in a sense, our own collagen.
Yeah.
There's a whole area of it in kind of more the cosmetic area, and that would be, does it help like with skin elasticity and youthful skin, and does it prevent, in a sense, aging? And that's kind of the other direction. There are multiple types of collagen. And by the way, collagen really is it's a peptide. So you have to take it in its peptide form, which is called hydrolyzed collagen, because it won't break down in the body unless it's in a peptide form. And really the peptides in collagen the main ones are glycine, proline, and hydroproline. And those three amino acids are what they call signaling. So they believe that they do get to the tissues based on kind of the most current research. They can get to the tissues. And it's more, they're not like placing collagen in the tissues, but what they think is happening is if you can take enough collagen a day, you might be getting enough of these amino acids that it's creating a signaling process for regeneration of tissues. And again, emerging research, it's not like a said and done, but I think those of us who are more interested in collagen and watching the research feel that there's enough evidence to at least kind of consider collagen as a supplement. There is evidence, probably the most strong research is in the area of the skin. Some people really, they criticize the studies around the skin because they can be subjective. And they can also, in a lot of these like studies, be industry funded. What does that mean? It means like, I have a product, I need it to be tested. And so they do the study, but it was the product that's going to be sold.
Right.
And so you always have to look at those biases. But in the studies that they've done on skin health, it definitely, for the most part, has showed in randomized controlled trials, although the studies are small and they're not for very long, like they're only like usually up to 12 weeks, that if you supplement with collagen peptides, that you see improved skin elasticity, hydration of the skin, and collagen and density does improve. So there is evidence that it does improve skin, and that's probably the strongest area of evidence. I think where people still are unsure is whether it affects like pain with arthritis, or again, improving performance. Does it help with cartilage repair? There is studies that show that. In fact, there was a really big study that was done not too long ago in Florida, at Florida University, and they studied chronic pain in older adults. And so they did a study where they had them consume collagen peptides for 9 months. And then they did a survey to, at the beginning, and then they did it at the end to look at measurements of pain, function and daily living, mental health. And basically the findings suggest that 10 to 20 grams of supplementation of collagen peptides over 6 to 9 months may improve pain, activities of daily living, muscle function, and actually mood even in these middle-aged adults. Again, these are survey studies, so they're not using like, I tested the tissue, right? And like, and knew that it was just like, these people definitely felt better. And anecdotally, Jamie, I believe that when I tell my patients to do about 10 grams of collagen a day, I think, and I will say this personally for myself, that my pain does improve, and I've seen it in my patients as well. And we know a lot of people, especially women in perimenopause, are having these pains, these joint pains, and they're wondering, should I take collagen? I think that it's worth it. And I think you should give a try for 3 to 9 months and see what happens. And I think it's definitely a consideration.
Yeah. Would there, again, be a reason why somebody should consider not taking collagen?
Collagen actually is super safe. Okay. So nobody really worries about collagen or creatine from a safety level. Okay. The only things they talk about with both of them is there could be some gastrointestinal, upset with anything that goes in the gut. Yeah. But they actually think collagen could be gut healing to some degree. And that makes sense, right, Jamie? You mentioned bone broth.
Yeah.
Bone broth actually is a form of collagen. You just don't get very much in it. And that's why it's not recommended to use bone broth as your primary source of collagen, although you'll get some. And it's not really recommended to actually use gelatin, although I know that's brought up and it is a source of collagen. It's really not as complex or robust in terms of the amino acid profile. So it's just better to do a collagen peptide powder. Now, this gets into like, well, which one and how much do I have to spend on it?
Right, right.
And that's difficult. But the biggest things to look for are the purity of the product in terms of the source, like, is it just collagen peptides? What is the source of it? It doesn't have to be like all of the collagens. Most of them are bovine sourced. Sometimes they're marine sourced. But it's like you want one that's third party tested. You can always call the company and ask for it's called the certificate of, it's called a COA. It's something like a certificate of it. And that is supposed to tell them where it's sourced, how it's tested, the purity of the product. And right now I'm using one actually that my family doctor uses too. It's called Sunset Divided Multi-Collagen Peptide Powder. It's only really sold at Walmart and I can't really find it anywhere else. I still need to do my research on it better because I kind of just took it because it was a recommendation and it's really more affordable. It's only like $17, which a lot of them are like 40.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's working. I'm putting it in my coffee and I'm feeling really good on it. So.
Oh, awesome. Well, good. I'm gonna have to add that to, I mean, if you look in your cupboards, I don't know if you're like this, Teresa. But I learn about a thing, I get excited and I buy it and then it's in my cupboard, and then I learn about the next thing and I buy it and I add it, I put it in the cupboard, And so, I mean, it's funny because I have all these things. Well, I just ordered Colostrum, but it is about like just doing it and seeing if it does help. And I think it's just that habit forming thing. So thank you for sharing about the collagen. Okay, so we talked about creatine, we talked about collagen. Now let's talk about colostrum because this is one again, the Instagram ad marketing. They are really, hammering the middle-aged woman, I think. The 40 plus woman with colostrum, and maybe the younger folk too. But tell me about colostrum. We know what colostrum is, as a breastfeeding mother. We know that colostrum is so good for our newborn babies. It has a bunch of healing power. The more yellow, the better, all this. But tell us about what colostrum is in regards to what you're talking about, and how by taking colostrum as an adult, how it can help.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, a lot of times it's been referred to as liquid gold. And colostrum is this powerful substance. It's pre-milk before a mother makes her kind of full milk, with all of the things that milk has. And in the pre-milk, it has an incredible amount of IgG, which is antibodies, basically, that are immune system stimulants. And this is why, and they've known this for years because they've studied cows. I mean, we've known about colostrum for so long in terms of the health of baby calves, and farmers know this the best. They literally know that without colostrum, their baby calves will be sick. And it became early in the 1700s, there was a farmer that figured this out. And then they started actually giving more colostrum to baby calves instead of just maybe, I don't think, again, they didn't really recognize how important it was. So they really, really focused on giving their baby calves colostrum. And it made a huge difference in the health of these cows. And so we've known about it. It's been like a science, you could say, that's ancestral, in terms of how colostrum protects the immune system and gives a first newborn life its first immunity. And of course, as mothers, we know that we're taught that feed that little tiny infant those first few days, that beautiful colostrum, because that's their first source of all of the most important vitamins and minerals. I was shocked at how much is in colostrum, and one of the main things in colostrum is lactoferrin. Lactoferrin, you hear about it. It actually has something to do with iron. And it basically is an antibacterial and antiviral. And they've actually done studies with colostrum on the skin and showed that it was wound healing because of the power of lactoferrin in colostrum. So skin healing colostrum, studies have been done on that. But most of the time, people want it just because they want to heal their gut. And that's probably where most of the robust studies are. There was a study done on soccer players, and it was a randomized controlled study where they gave one group colostrum every day and the other group not. And they found that it protected them from upper respiratory infection. And there's been studies, there's a huge meta-analysis that was done that showed that giving colostrum in young children who have acute diarrhea improved the outcomes by 3 times. So like it treated the acute diarrhea. So we know that like all of these immune globulins, all of these immune system chemicals or nutrients, they are healing the gut. That's why it seems like liquid gold. Like, should I spend though my money on it? Because it kind of costs the same as gold. And so this is where like colostrum, when people talk about it, they're like, well, I don't believe the studies are really robust. I think it's kind of, you're just throwing your money away. I have been a believer in it, and I'll tell you why, Jamie. It's because I worked with a doctor at St. Paul VI who actually, before his time, he was giving patients colostrum through a product called transfer factor. And transfer factor is just a part of kind of, again, these immune system chemicals. And it was extracted, and it was made by this company in Utah called For Life. So it's called Classic Transfer Factor. And the doctor I worked with was an endometriosis surgeon, and he was using it. And I think he kind of wanted to do a study to see if maybe it would prevent the reoccurrence of endometriosis. I don't think the study was ever done, but here's the thing, Jamie, and we gave transfer factor to a lot of people. Everybody who took it said they didn't get sick anymore. And he would always, like, anecdotally would be like, well, I'm not sure if it prevents the reoccurrence of endo, but I tell you what, nobody gets sick anymore. And so in the back of my mind, I always thought, that's really cool. And I've always kept that as like a tool in my toolbox for my patients. Like, if you are someone that feels like every winter you get every cold, flu, influenza thing that goes around, then maybe colostrum is a consideration, because it's like, again, just this miracle little gold stuff powder that basically, sorry for my dog there, gold powder that heals the gut. And we know the gut is 80% of our immune system. Totally. So I'll stop there for a second, Jamie, and just let you ask any questions about it.
Yeah. Well, okay. This is always what comes to my mind, always. When I think about colostrum, I think about a mother's milk, like a human mother's milk feeding their biological child, or whatever. Maybe there's a milk bank, but whatever. They're feeding a baby. But when I think about colostrum in this sense, well, that's not coming from a human. It's coming from a cow, I expect. The colostrum is the colostrum of cow's milk. Is that correct?
That is very correct, right? When we're ingesting it, we're not taking, our own, we're taking human, and that's been a criticism.
Yeah.
Is it really good?
Weirds me out a little. But if that weirds me out, then milk should weird me out even more, because I mean, so I think it's this always kind of this, I don't know. I feel personally that the world makes sense when we think about God's natural law. This is me personally. And when I think about God's natural law, I think, well, really, I'm getting philosophical, but were we humans actually meant to drink milk from another animal? Or were we really just meant to drink milk from our own mother for a certain amount of time, and then we move on with life? And so that's always just kind of like a bigger question, and a conversation that requires far more time and whatever. And so when I think about colostrum, it shouldn't weird me out, because we drink milk from cows, and I do drink milk from cows. I'm drinking a latte right now. I mean, it's just kind of more of this, like, it's like almost like a deeper invitation into this concept of drinking milk of an animal that isn't of my species. You know what I'm saying? So it's just kind of like is weird in my mind, but that didn't keep me from ordering it, and it's set to come like on Monday or whatever. I ordered colostrum. And I can be a case study because if it helps my
Yes.
immune system as of late, I mean, then who cares? I'll drink all the colostrum from a cow until I just,
Well, and it's a really good point. I think we need to be much more careful with colostrum. You know, like when you talk about the product you're going to buy, I
yeah,
do think this is one where I think you got to be a little bit more strategic and make sure you have a trusted source. You
right.
know, I know out there, all of you have seen the Armora. Jamie, you've seen Armora colostrum. I don't know how
Yes,
anybody
yes, I
doesn't
have.
see it.
Yeah,
Everybody sees it.
yeah.
And I
Hmm.
think this is a huge reason why colostrum is kind of like at the forefront of our social media right now is Armora. But there's a ton of other brands of colostrum. It's just that one, I don't know, they're just doing $1 billion of marketing apparently.
Yeah, right.
I didn't know this backstory, but doing research for this podcast, the doctor that created Armora is a pediatrician, and Jamie, her colon collapsed.
Oh,
She had a mysterious illness that no of her modern medicine doctors could figure out, and she was so sick she was almost dead. I mean, she was like her colon had entirely collapsed, and she healed through colostrum.
wow.
And so it gave her the passion, and she decided to do, of course, all the research on it, and then create her own product. Now, what do I respect about that? I respect the fact that the heart of that colostrum product came from personal testimony and from a physician.
Right.
You know, so I'm not promoting Armra, and we are not a sponsor of anything colostrum as of now. We're not doing anything like that. But I would just say when I read her backstory and stuff, I was like, oh wow. And then Jamie, the colostrum that I'm taking right now,
Yeah.
um, I it's called WonderCow. And what I love about it is that it was created kind of like our We Heart Nutrition people. It was created by a family on a farm, and it was because the daughter, this beautiful family has, I think, three little girls, and the first little girl they had born was getting sick all the time with ear infections, and she was getting on antibiotics, and it was destroying her gut lining.
Yeah.
And then the young farmer guy, was like, "Wait, what do we do with our calves? How do
Hmm.
we protect their gut and their immune system? We give them colostrum." And so they ended up creating a company called WonderCow. And what I love about it is it's sourced from their farm in California.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And it comes from the heart of a family. And so I think you really have to do your research.
Right.
I think colostrum should be a strategic supplement, not necessarily an everyday supplement.
Hmm.
And I think we have still not a ton of research. And there are some people that are concerned because, you know, what hormones are you going to get in there? There is what we call insulin growth like factor in colostrum. And so there's been a concern that maybe it could cause cancer or something, or like grow cancers because of the IGF in it. But there was a trial and a study done that showed that ingesting large amount of colostrum did not increase blood levels of IGF. So that was at least one reassurance that really it wasn't increasing IGF. But these are all questions, and this is why we remain cautious and skeptical. Colostrum generally is overwhelmingly safe otherwise. And I think the sourcing of it just has to be scrutinized heavily.
Right.
I think, you know, like I said, I felt good about the one I'm taking, but you just really have to do your homework on colostrum and make sure that it is right for you. I also think that company For Life in Utah has been around for so long that would be a trusted source as well.
Yeah, yeah. These stories do matter. They do matter. It helps to know the origin of how some of these things start.
It does.
Speaking of California, a special thank you to our podcast partner, who they are located in California, We Heart Nutrition. As you guys probably know, if you've been following us for any amount of time, we love We Heart Nutrition. We get our supplements from We Heart Nutrition. It's a brand and a company that really cares about family values, good supplements, high quality supplements. So if you are looking for a good quality supplement, please visit weheartnutrition.com and type in Genius for 20% off of your first order. That's weheartnutrition.com, Genius for 20% off your first order. And also, we want to give a shout out to one of our newer partners for at least a few months here called Tiny Health. Tiny Health is an amazing gut testing company. I know from my own experience, we used this testing for my son, who we felt had some gut struggles and issues. Testing your gut is important, especially when you feel like you've done everything else, but you're just not feeling better. Maybe you're taking supplements, you're managing your stress, you're working out, all of that. But again, you're just not improving whatever your health goal might be. So be sure to check out Tiny Health. They use a whole genome sequencing, which is again the same technology used in cutting edge research labs to show you exactly what microbes are in your gut and vaginal microbiome, and more importantly, what they're doing there. You do get a dashboard with supplement suggestions, food and lifestyle enhancements to help to improve your gut based on the results. So if you type in Hormone Genius, you get $50 off your test by visiting tinyhealth.com. Again, that's tinyhealth.com. Use code Hormone Genius to get $50 off your test. And one last thing, Teresa, before we kind of start to recap and wrap up, is Teresa and I just recently launched a perimenopause course. And this perimenopause course can be found at our website. It's $97. Our website's hormonegenius.com. And I cannot begin to explain to you, especially as of late, Teresa, how many people ask me about their health in perimenopause, and it's because I'm in perimenopause too. But the conversations are starting and they're ramping up, and it matters. Women and you matter. Visit our website, www.hormonegenius.com. $97 for the perimenopause course, and you will learn so much in a very easy to learn way. Okay, with that, Teresa, we talked about creatine, talked about collagen, we talked about colostrum. For you personally, do you take all three? And you mentioned that colostrum isn't something necessarily that maybe you take all the time every day. You maybe take it in certain scenarios. So what are the scenarios you find yourself taking colostrum for?
Yeah, good question. Yeah. So let's just recap. Again, I definitely think every perimenopausal woman should be considering creatine. So number one, and I take creatine daily, and I think that's a no-brainer. There's so much evidence. Everybody knows that. So creatine, yes, I take it and will probably now for the rest of my life because of its ability to really bring energy to the body and continue to help with building muscle, which we know is the greatest longevity tool. And then second, collagen peptides. You know, one thing I didn't say about collagen peptides is that technically it's not a complete protein. And so you should not use it as a substitute for all other quality proteins. It's kind of deficient in the most important amino acid for muscle protein synthesis, which is called leucine. And so collagen peptides don't have as much leucine in it. So your whey proteins or your other proteins are really important still for muscle building and for strengthening the bones. So I just want you to know that. And there isn't enough evidence at this point to say collagen peptides alone strengthens the bone. So we really want to just focus again on those complete proteins as well. I am taking collagen every day. I feel like there's enough evidence to take it because there's so little downside. And I have found a collagen that's affordable that I'm planning to continue to take because it fits with my lifestyle, which is a morning cup of coffee, and it's so easy for me to put it in. And if I can get any benefit to my skin, who as a woman is not going to sign up for that? So I feel like
so true.
Creatine, collagen peptides, kind of gonna like stay on them for me until I know otherwise. Lastly, colostrum. Like I said, I probably focus on taking it only at periods of time. Maybe I've been super stressed out. Lately, I have been really stressed out. My parents' health issues are overwhelming right now to me, as well as everything else. So I have been taking recently colostrum because I'm like, I really need that extra immune system support. We all know that when we're stressed, our immune systems go down and we're more prone to illness. So I take it strategically when I feel like my immune system needs that boost. And so that might be once a year. I might take it probably for, a month, 2 months, something like that. I overall have a pretty good gut, so I'm not so worried about that. But gosh, if I had a patient with gut issues, certainly would be kind of a tool I'd be looking at for restoring gut health. But like I said, this is the one where I think we need to be at least a little bit more cautious with and wait for more research to come out before we just give it the total thumbs up. But I think we're getting closer to that over time. And I think collagen peptides, again, that's one been on the fence with people. I think we're moving closer to the full thumbs up overall with that too. So yeah, Jamie, I know you, like I said, started it because you've been sick recently, and I hope it really helps you because your brain just doesn't function as well when you just don't feel well. True. And so sometimes doing these podcasts are even hard. Yeah. But so we'll really hope that helps you out too. So if you have questions, we'll try to put as much information as we can in the show notes, but really hope that this helps you guys to, make a decision about whether these 3 C supplements are worth it for your health.
Thanks for listening to the Hormone Genius Podcast. Please remember to share our podcast with your friends and family, and also follow us on social media. If you were not aware, we have a YouTube channel. So if you could like and subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay in the loop with all of our latest episodes, we would appreciate that. Thank you so much for your support. We are excited to journey alongside you as you discover the beauty and the genius of your hormones.